Are the new TSA pat-down procedures designed to make us safer, more turned on, or just security theater? And is the whole story blown out of proportion, or are there serious privacy and safety concerns at stake? TSA Bikini Girl is here in the studio with me to discuss. Also, I'll be interviewing the man, the myth, the marketing legend, Seth Godin. Don't move. It's the Annie Duke Show. Welcome to the Annie Duke Show, and I'm your host, still Annie. Helping me out and interacting with you, our viewers throughout, is Brian, who's not in the corner anymore.
I'm not.
Hi,
back.
Brian.
Hi, Annie. How are you doing?
I'm good.
I'm back on the couch.
Yes, you are. We brought you on the couch last week, and we decided that we liked it for a while, at least until we have two people who are willing to come on the show and be on the couch. How was your Thanksgiving?
It was wonderful.
It was good?
It was the meal was great, but the best part was coming back here on Friday. Because I hate being away from the South Bay.
Oh, you went to Atlanta?
I was in St. Louis.
Oh, you were in St. Louis. Oh, right, that's right. You went to St. Louis. I was here. I burned myself, look, cooking my 4 pies.
But when you cook as much as you do.
I know. This was a really bad one, though. Anyway, I'm just clumsy. I have something for you, honey. People don't know. It's his birthday.
It was yesterday, but.
It's close enough. So I have a little. I'm not going to light it on fire for fear that I would actually light something on fire, but that's a dulce de leche. Would you like a cupcake
Served by
to celebrate?
Bikini Girl. That's kind of hot.
Of course. I mean,
we have straight traditional vanilla. These are from Big Sugar Bakery, by the way. Ooh. Who did not? I still had to pay for the cupcakes. Yeah. I should have told them I was going to bring them on a show that like 3 people watch.
For Brian the Corner.
I know, and then maybe I wouldn't have had to pay the $10 for the cupcakes. These are this vanilla chocolate and red velvet.
I'm a red velvet girl.
Okay, well here, that's for you. I would give one to Seth, but he's not actually in studio.
Thank you. Yeah, Thank you for having your birthday.
I'm going to decline to have one because I'm like freaking weighing in at cow after Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
So sad. I need to lose like 1 billion pounds. All right. I'm now sticky for our show. Are you going to try it though? I want to know if it's good.
I will. I'll eat it right now.
My children claim to me that these are like the best cupcakes in LA.
What's it called again?
It's called Big Sugar. It's on Ventura. They say it's better than that sprinkles. They don't like sprinkles. They say sprinkles are too much. Is it good? Are they good?
I'm looking creepy with this mustache.
Yeah, by the way, I want to congratulate you on the commitment.
I just saw myself in the camera and it's kind of scary.
We had discussed last time. We were dark last week.
I got icing on my face.
2 weeks ago we said I didn't think you were actually going to make it with
we made a prop bet without actually putting any actual wager on it.
But you kept the Movember mustache. I'm so proud of you to support the prostate cancer.
I think my wife was secretly liking it, so I kept it.
Ooh, wow. That's a little creepy. Are you going to shave it off tomorrow because it's December 1st?
Tonight.
Tonight? It's at midnight?
I am. So if you're a guy watching though, I wore this for Movember, and it's prostate cancer / men's health awareness. So get yourself checked. Yes,
or you could have someone from the TSA check you.
That's a good point.
That's a good point. You could double up.
That's a good point.
I would like to. I did point out to him though that the Movember started in Australia, and it's much less weird for an Australian guy to have just the mustache.
I look like a child molester.
Because really, the only people who sport mustaches are really Australians, Tom Selleck, and Freddie Mercury.
This is true.
To be fair, right?
So either the 80s or.
Right. Yeah. It's either right.
You're in the wrong decade.
Magnum PI. I like it. How old are you now? 60 or so?
40.
You're looking great for 60, by the way.
42.
Not so good for 42.
42.
All right, listen, I'm really excited about our show today. In just a minute, I'm going to be joined by Skype with the brilliant Seth Godin. I'm so excited about this. Seth is the author of many of the most read marketing books over the past decade. His blog is the most read marketing blog in the whole wide world, and he is the founder of Squidoo.com. Squidoo.com, a fast-growing recommendation website where people can recommend stuff to each other, which is the best place to find real information. Also here in the studio, joining us in the discussion is the now famous TSA Bikini Girl, Corrine Theile, right? Theile. Sorry.
All right.
It's spelled not like it's pronounced.
But if we spoke German, you'd be right there.
I'd be right there with Theile?
Yeah.
All right. I'd also be good with the whole different grammar and saying like
Your verb on the
Achtung.
end. Yeah.
Anyway, we've got a video of her we're going to show later. You wore a bikini through the LAX security last week, and that's been shown all around the world. It's gone viral. So obviously you're here to discuss the TSA's new pat-down procedures and whether the whole story has been blown out of proportion, or should we really be up in arms, or at least up in half-naked arms in a bikini about this. And before we wrap up today, more food talk, because we always have to talk about food on the Annie Duke Show, as Sarah Palin drops the cookie bomb.
She's crazy.
Yes, that's true. You're running me speechless on that. I have no response. But before we go any further, Brian, can you tell our audience how they can join in the discussion?
It's very simple. For those of you watching via Ustream, you just type in a Q, a colon, and type your question away. And if you're on justin.tv/thisweek, just type your question and I'll get to it.
Yeah.
We got people on both. Justin, a lot of people are starting to use justin.tv.
Okay, that's good. I haven't checked out that. I've only checked it out on this weekend. I'm going to have to check out. Do you see how pale I look, by the way? I just had a glance in the monitor. I look like Casper the Friendly Ghost today.
That's kind of the look. I look.
Floating head.
Yeah,
so.
I'm kind of paler.
That's true. You're like the floating head because you're wearing black.
Crazy.
And
I should do the rest of the show like this.
just cover up the mustache. All right, I think we're ready. Seth.
Annie,
I'm so excited to see you.
I've been sitting here like someone backstage at the circus waiting for my cue.
Well, you have your cue now. Here we are. Listen, I have to tell you, I thought this was really interesting. So I was at home today and I thought, I should really bring in some of Seth's fabulous books. So I realized that I only actually own one hardcover of the book, which is the Permission Marketing book. I'm going to put here for everybody to see. You're really the inventor of that term. And I realized that if I wanted to show the rest of the books, I would have to hope that someone could see my iPad, because that's where I carry them all around. And I thought, oh, how appropriate to start the discussion with you.
I'm so flattered. Where were you? When were you at Big Sugar? I was there on Saturday.
Oh, really? I was just there this afternoon.
Oh, I missed you. Sorry.
Yeah. It's supposedly very good cupcakes, but I don't eat refined sugar, so I couldn't partake.
Me either.
Unfortunately. I know. It's being the health nut. But I thought this would be a great place. So you've done 12 books now, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, 12. That's a lot. That's good. Are you going to go for the baker's dozen?
Lots of news on the horizon, but I can't talk about it today, I'm afraid.
Okay, well, I think we do have a picture of your latest book, which is Lynchpin. I don't know if we can put, there we go, Lynchpin. Are you indispensable?
Cool effects, yeah.
Yeah, see, there we go, exactly. Obviously, I would say my guess is your most famous book is probably Purple Cow.
Yeah, I think so. It was the right place at the right time.
Yeah, and if anybody wants to watch, you have a brilliant TED Talk that's based on that from, I think, 2007, so people can go to TED.com. And find that out. So I wanted to talk about this because I think it's a great place to start. So I've got one copy that I can share with people and that I would have been in a bookstore actually looking for among other books. And then I've got about 6 of your other books on here because I happen to be a big fan, so I've read your books. So I just want to talk about that. I mean, obviously, this is a big sort of sea change from 20 years ago where in order to get a book, I would have been browsing through Barnes & Noble. How are we supposed to deal with this? You know, what have marketers been doing right? What have marketers been doing wrong in terms of dealing with this change?
Well, you know, the thing that, if you were writing about manufacturing, the time to be doing it would be in the 30s and the 40s. Because we went from a world where everything was made one at a time to a world where there was mass production. And if you were writing about advertising, the time to do it was in the 50s and 60s, because that's when fortunes were made by being madmen. What's happened just in the last 10 years is a fundamental upheaval in the way ideas are spread, whether you're running for president or you're trying to sell Coca-Cola or you're trying to persuade the public that getting naked to get on an airplane is a good idea. And all of those things are differently enabled now because it's not about interrupting people by yelling at them, and it's not about running TV ads or billboards. So what happens is the fundamental driver of our economy, which is marketing, has changed, and most people don't realize it. So what I do is I notice things, I call them out, and I explain them through this lens of we need to get a better handle on how people with money are trying to use that money to persuade us to go along with their way of thinking.
So, I think that I heard a wonderful talk by you just recently where you were talking about the way that records were marketed and how the record companies basically reacted to the change that I'm sort of talking about here. And I just felt like it was such an amazing, eye-opening experience for me to hear you tell that tale, because it really made me realize, that I needed to be rethinking the way that people are interacting with each other. And I would love to hear that tale told again, because I think it's an amazing story to share.
Well, what we don't remember is that the industry we're in used to be perfect. When it's perfect, all things are great, right? And then when things get tough, we can't understand why. The record business was perfect in 1967 for a whole bunch of reasons. Vinyl LPs are great because they sound good, but also if I love it, I listen to it a lot, which means I wear it out, which means I have to buy another one. Or if I love it and I lend it to you, Annie, that means you have it, but I don't, so I have to buy another one. And then there was radio, and then we invented MTV, and there was Rolling Stone magazine, and there was the senior prom, and there were all these things that made the record business perfect. Tower Records, Casey Kasem, American Top 40. Well, what happened about 5 or 10 years ago is CD, then digital, then radio got boring, then iTunes, then the long tail, then Casey Kasem not being as important, and the senior prom being more about Facebook. And you go down the list, and all these things changed. And what the record industry did was they said, okay, let's sue our best customers. Instead of saying, whoa, 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 we're in a new business now than we used to be, they could have said, there's more music than ever before. They could have realized it's cheaper to make music than ever before, cheaper to deliver music than ever before, more music being listened to by more people, and there's room for someone to make that into an industry. But instead they said, no, 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 we hate this. We want to go back to the days of LPs, so let's sue people. And as a result, they're under stress, they're under stress, they're under stress, and then they're busted. And right now, most of the people I know in the record business, who I like very much, are really having no fun whatsoever because they're trying to reclaim what used to be there instead of understanding that the opportunity is very different than it used to be.
And what do you think it is that makes somebody not see the opportunities that are available and just try to fight something that's clearly inevitable? I guess it's kind of a twofold question. Why would they fight it, and why would they think that they could fight it?
Well, you make a lot of money because you understand this, and when you're playing poker with someone who doesn't, you win.
That is true, yeah.
And this is basic human nature. The fact is that we care more about the cards we've got than our ability to get rid of those cards and get different ones. We think that the world is often unfair to us, and it's more comfortable to blame the world than it is to take responsibility for our situation and do something about it. I loved 1967 from the record industry's point of view. I'm sorry it's not here anymore, but let's acknowledge that and move on. This mindset afflicts just about everyone. If I look at AOL, one of the great online companies, they were the king when there weren't a lot of other choices about how you were going to get this thing we called the internet. But once the whole universe opened up, the mistake AOL made 5 or 10 years ago was saying, well, people will stick with us because we try hard. Instead of saying, you know what we could do? We could just embrace this whole open universe. We could become eBay and Groupon and Google and all the others. But instead, they just sort of closed their eyes to a new world and demanded that the old world come back.
I think that's really interesting because that's a parallel that I draw in poker all the time, that when players win at poker, they like to talk about how smart they are. And when they lose at poker, they talk about how unlucky they were.
Yep.
And that creates a world in which they just never get better as poker players. So for me, what you're saying is ringing so familiar. Why would people do that? Wouldn't they want to get better and learn from their mistakes, which I think is really interesting. And I guess that's what allows the iTunes to come in and just own the music space.
That's right. And so part of what's going on here is we have to acknowledge that there's been some brainwashing. Brainwashing at work, but mostly brainwashing at school, right? And the brainwashing at school is about doing what you're told. We have taught people from the age of 5 to do what they're told. That works great if the world doesn't change. But if the world changes, it's really hard to do what you're told because no one can tell you what to do.
Right. So obviously, you've obviously been thinking in a new way about how to navigate this new space and the way that people interact with products for a long time. So, sort of going back to this term that you coined and invented, which is permission marketing. Can you explain the difference between what is interruption marketing, what is permission marketing, and why is the former not working anymore?
Well, there are two ways to get married, Annie. The first way to get married is to go to a singles bar and walk up to the first person you meet and propose marriage. I can tell you've tried this. And if that doesn't work, repeat the process on every person in the bar until someone says they'll marry you. This is a really stupid way to get married. The other way to get married is to go on a date, right? If it goes well, go on another date with that person. Wait till the third date before you tell them you're out on parole. And then you meet their parents, they meet your parents, you get engaged, you get married. It's a much better way to get married. Well, if it's a good way to get married, why isn't it a good way to sell stuff? Why do we spend all our time propositioning strangers? Buy my product or turn the page. Buy my product or hang up the phone. Buy my product or delete this email. As opposed to dating people, as opposed to earning the right to deliver anticipated, personal, and relevant messages to people who want to get them. That if someone says, yes, Annie, please teach me about why I want to do business with you, you are far more likely to make a sale to that person than if you're just yelling at strangers. But the culture, the Mad Men culture, is that there's an infinite number of strangers. Just keep yelling until someone says they'll go home with you.
So it's like casting a wide net and hoping that a few people get caught in the net, but you're bothering a whole lot of people along the way.
That's right. And that's been the key engine of television since it was invented.
And obviously that worked really well, though, for a long time. What is it that changed? I mean, I still remember, I can sing commercial jingles from when I was younger. I could sing the Bud commercial and I was too young to drink. I remember the Jell-O commercial. I remember the Toys R Us commercial. I can sing all of those for you. So at one point it was working really well because I can sing all those things for you.
Try this one. Winston tastes good.
Like a cigarette should, I think.
Exactly. It hasn't been on television since 1963.
See,
before you were born, Annie.
And I still know the way it goes.
So here's the problem. Problem number one, there aren't 3 channels of TV. There's 300 channels of cable TV. But if I count internet channels as TV, like a Hulu Channel 1 and Hulu Channel 12 or whatever, and YouTube channels, there's now 1 trillion channels of TV. What that means is I don't have to sit for the commercials. I can just change the channel with one click. So I have more power. Number 2 is there aren't just 2 or 3 or 4 manufacturers in a segment. There's 20 or 30 or 50 or 100. So, think about how many potato chips are at your supermarket now. Not only don't you know their jingles, you don't even know the names of all those brands.
Right.
So with all this clutter and all this choice, the pendulum has swung from the manufacturer having the power to the consumer having the power. And if you have the power, you're just not going to sit still for someone yelling at you when you can just move on and do what you want to do. People with a TiVo, that old-fashioned device that's been made obsolete in the last 6 months, skip 80% of the ads that are shown to them because they can.
I've actually gotten very good at stopping it. It's like a game to stop it just when they not go past, and not catch any of the commercial. That's the key. Yep. Actually, just last night, Joe said, "Oh, that was an excellent stop," because I got it right, so there was no commercial at all. We were watching The Event, which is not a great show, but for some reason we've gotten really involved in it. I don't know why. So did this all start with those when we did have 3 or 5 channels with those clunky remote controls that were like ka-chunk? Is that when things started going downhill?
Well, things started going downhill when Zenith invented the remote control, for sure. But what really made the difference was cable TV and the web, because at that point, the mass market went away. Here's a fascinating statistic. If Seinfeld, the most popular show of the decade, had been on with the same number of viewers that it had, but had been on in 1973, it wouldn't have been one of the top 50 shows on television.
Really?
Yep. That's the
difference. I didn't know that. How many viewers was Seinfeld getting?
Millions and millions, but it wasn't millions and millions and millions. that they lost this huge share of people who either stopped watching television altogether or were watching cable channels.
That's so interesting. I had no idea. I know that I think 2.5 Men, which is like one of the most popular shows right now, I think it gets like 5 million viewers, which I think would have been canceled. Right, in the 70s or something like that. It's actually, I mean, I guess everybody's just so spread out. So what was, just to sort of move through, one of the first big ventures that you founded was Yo-Yo-Dine, which sort of was taking this idea. So what was that about?
So we said, look, you don't have to see the ads, so we're going to make it worth your while. We'll send you an email every day, and that email will have questions in it that are funny or quiz things in it that are funny. And if you win the game that's in the email, we'll give you $1 million, or we'll give you a Babe Ruth autographed baseball, or we'll fly you to the World Cup. And so people are busy trying to solve all these questions, to find out all these answers, and they were all questions and answers about our sponsors. So we did a soap opera with Tampax, and at the end of every day, you had to decide, should the heroine go out with the guy or not go out with the guy? Should she take the job or should she not take the job? And you were busy waiting for the next installment, right? Which you knew was coming from Tampax. But the point is 74% of the people who got the email wrote back every time.
And because they wanted to, because they were asking to participate in the game.
Exactly.
Now, so this brings up an interesting point, because this is something that my lovely boyfriend Joe has said to me all the time, that the minute that TiVo started becoming really pervasive and people started skipping commercials, he had said to me, and I want to know what your opinion about this is, we should go back to the Texaco Comedy Hour. Because then people can't fast forward through it. Oh, wait, I think he's paused and something's happened to his connection. I can't. Skype frozen, they're saying. I hope move to, okay. I guess he will come back and then we can ask him about that. But do you see what Joe is saying? He's like, well, in a world where people can fast forward through commercials and nobody wants to listen to anything.
Yeah, you just integrate it into the program.
You integrate it into the program, and we should go back to what they were originally doing in the 50s and have the Texaco Comedy Hour, which, as you'll remember, starred Sid Caesar.
I'm only 42.
I wasn't alive then either, dude. And yet I still know that. Are we going to get Seth back? We're working on Seth. Will be a minute. Okay. I hope we're going to get Seth back, because we're going to segue. Hopefully we'll be able to come back to that topic a little bit, because I hope you find him as fascinating as I do. We're going to segue into the TSA. I want to get Seth back because, interestingly enough, we booked Seth like 2 months ago, right? And he's obviously a really busy guy. We're very lucky to have him come on. And then now with the TSA stuff being so prevalent, we thought, well, you know what? We should make the topic the TSA. I particularly wanted to ask Seth because I feel like there's a marketing component to what's going on with the TSA. And then I'm looking at his blog, and lo and behold, this week, he happened to write a blog about the TSA saying that they were just marketing. So I'm hoping that we can get him back on the show. So getting into the TSA now, because we get to segue from Seth just going to play. This is a live show, folks. We can't help it. So can we show the video of Corrine going through LAX in her bikini? Do we have it?
If they want to try and see what I've got hidden in my bikini, they're welcome to.
Okay, first of all, I'd like to say that if I had a stomach as flat as that, I'd be wearing a bikini through the screening procedure. Did you know that? Did you call people that they were going to be filmed there, or how did that work? That there were just magically cameras?
Yeah. Yes. Well, what happened is I posted on my Facebook, seriously considering going to the airport tomorrow in my bikini, and I, of course, got quite a few response from my friends. And one of my friends who owns a PR company, Good Girls PR, she wrote a couple of posts and said, "Oh my God, that's the best idea." And then later on down the post, she said, "If you do it, let me pitch it to the media." And
okay, good.
So then later on that evening, we had a phone call, and I kind of hemmed and hawed about it. And I'm the type of person who goes through with things. I wouldn't have put it up on Facebook if it hadn't been something I was seriously considering. And then she had reached out to one of the media outlets here in Los Angeles, and they took interest.
I love the follow through, by the way, and that the cameras were there to see that we were doing that. I think so. Obviously, you going through in a bikini is a little bit tongue in cheek, but to make a statement. But I think we also have a video of a 3-year-old getting groped. If we can pull. Shirt off.
I mean, this is a confusing story, though, right? Because didn't the father take his shirt off?
Well, because he was told to, though.
Was he told to?
Yeah. In the groin area.
So the fact that I didn't get touched was probably the mustache, right? Because I feel kind of. I went through 3 airports and I didn't even.
That's probably why
I didn't even get touched.
I'm
like,
creepy.
Hold me, somebody. I was like, nothing.
I mean, you know, I read an interesting thing on the 3-year-old front, which was actually a little bit, you know, heartbreaking for me because I hadn't really thought about this way. But I spend a lot of time telling my children that people aren't allowed to touch them there. And now these kids have these people who look like policemen, you know, while the parents are sort of sitting there like helpless while they touch them, where you've said clearly that unless it's a doctor in a room with you, you should never have anybody touch you there. And I was thinking, oh my God, these poor children are going to be scarred for life. Yeah.
So just the doctor and the man in the blue shirt.
Right, and the man in the blue shirt touching you for no apparent reason. Why did you decide to do this?
A couple of reasons. I mean, one, I tend to be the type of person who, when I put something out in the universe and say I'm going to do it, I do it. But I also feel that it was important to draw attention to what the TSA is doing, which is making travelers uncomfortable.
Right.
And I obviously feel that safety is very important, and I don't think that we should sacrifice our safety, but I think that we need to look at what we're doing to that makes people feel uncomfortable.
Well, do you think that the TSA is actually making us safer?
I think they do their job. I think that they don't necessarily need to do what they're doing right now.
I mean, Brian, do you think that what the TSA is doing in their procedures, and this is something I'd really love to hear from the viewers about, do you feel like what the TSA is doing is actually making us safer, is actually reducing the chances of a terrorist attack?
Maybe indirectly.
Indirectly in what way?
That hopefully, I mean, I think what they're doing is, I don't think they're going about it the right way, but the way they are doing it and the media that it's generating, it should hopefully kind of scare people to bringing things on an airplane, because, you know, if you're going to get an anal cavity check, you're less likely to.
So here's the interesting thing. So I actually disagree. I don't think that they're making us safer at all. And I'll tell you why. So first of all, I think that there's sort of 2 separate problems about this. Problem number 1 is you can't protect against every single target that a terrorist might attack. You certainly can't protect every plane that a terrorist might attack, and you can't search every person that might get on a plane. So the idea that you could, you know, look, prior to the World Trade Centers going down, that we wouldn't have thought, we need to guard the World Trade Centers, or I don't think anybody's guarding the Sears building right now, or, you know, we wouldn't have thought about those as targets prior to them doing that, because there's really hundreds of thousands of possible targets that would be very devastating to us to have hit. And you can't protect all of them, and you can't protect all the planes. So what they're doing is they're spreading resources out, sort of trying to figure out, well, how can we protect everything that's out there? When the best thing to do, in my opinion, would be to do really good intelligence work, because intelligence is blind to target, and it also happens to be blind to method, right? So if you catch a terrorist cell, it doesn't matter who they were trying to hit or how they were trying to do it, you caught the terrorist cell. So we're working, it feels like we're working well past the point that we should be working, right? Because we're trying to catch like particular individuals with particular targets, with particular methods. And that's where the underwear groping comes in and the shoes coming off come in. Because basically, as far as I can tell, what the TSA does is they wait until somebody tries to do something and then they say, well, we have to protect against that. And that's the issue that I have, is that terrorists are very creative. They can certainly come up with other ways to bring a plane down that don't involve blowing up your underwear and lighting it on fire. Which I like to say that, though. I lit my underwear on fire. How's your underwear doing today, Brian?
My underwear's good, and if I had a body like her, I probably would have worn...
You would have worn the bikini, too. But think about it. It's like you don't need to take your shoes off when you go to Heathrow, right? But Heathrow doesn't have a lot of terrorist attacks on their planes. And you don't need to have your underwear groped when you're going to Heathrow. You don't have your underwear groped and your shoes off when you're going through Israel, which you would think would have a lot of, people trying to attack it. Because I feel like they're not actually trying to catch terrorists. They're just trying to scare the shit out of us. That's what I feel like. It's not meant to actually even make us feel safer.
It created a boatload of jobs.
Yes.
A ton of jobs. I think it's 58 million people or something.
It's something
crazy.
like that. It's a lot of jobs that they created for people who are would be relatively low paid. These are not people who are of high education, right? And I think that the issue for me is that groping someone's underwear isn't trying to find a terrorist. I think we have Seth back. Seth, you're back.
You don't even want to know. You don't want to know that I have 2 internet connections in my house. They both went down, and now I got my little Wi-Fi card here. It didn't work, but I fixed it, and here I am. I'm so sorry. It's not my fault.
That's okay. We're just so excited to have you back. So I want to, let me ask you the question really quickly that I was going to ask you before we left, and then we started talking about the TSA, and I know that you have a lot to say about that, so I want to get into that. But my question was, given that we can TiVo through everything, right, should we go back to this concept of the Texaco Comedy Hour as an advertiser?
Well, if you're a marketer, you only have 2 choices. You either got to stop making boring stuff like gasoline and hope that people talk about you, or you need to invest in putting on a show that people will want to watch. And now with the internet, you can have your own show. So you should. But it's better to make stuff that's not boring.
So you can make boring stuff like Dentine, which hasn't changed since I was a kid, except I think they changed the package. Woo.
What's up with Gumcat's packaging, by the way?
I don't know. Now they do the foldy thing. I don't know. They were like, instead of doing sticks, sticks were perfect, by the way. Why did they change to the, I don't even know why they did that.
It's a cigarette.
Yeah, right. Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's true.
yeah.
It's now the new cigarette box.
Yeah.
See, that's why you're smart, and I just can hold your book. I can just go, look, I have this book. So you can either you can try to sell boring stuff through creating really cool content that will sell the boring stuff, which I suppose is sort of what Yo-Yo Dine was doing, right? A little.
Yeah, what we said was our customer, the person who had $1 million to spend on our promotions, couldn't change the product. They worked at a big company that made boring stuff. What my writing has said for the last 10 years is, I'll take your money, but it's way better if you would just stop making boring stuff.
So before we get to the TSA, I just want to talk about something, because I feel like Apple is like the most brilliant thing about making boring stuff seem not boring, because I think this is such a great example. What I'm holding here, my iPad, which is, in case anybody steals my iPad, you can't get in it unless you know my code. I just want to say that because it's locked. But so the iPad, they made it seem like this was the most amazing invention ever, the most exciting thing, and everybody had to have it, but it's really just a big iPhone. I mean, let's be honest. It's not really that innovative. It's just
No.
No.
You're wrong. You're wrong.
Why am I wrong?
I take credit for everything Apple has produced because they've been reading my stuff since I started writing it. Here's the thing. It's not boring. The first person in the room who pulls one out, everyone wants to talk to them about it. Not because they saw Steve Jobs, not because it's been hyped, but because it's touchy, because it's magical, because it's a totally different way to interact, not just with a piece of machinery, but with the whole world. And it will be boring 2 years from now. But right now, it's way better than talking about the weather, right? If I have a choice between talking about the weather and Dentine, I'm going to talk about the weather. But if I have a choice between talking about the weather and your iPad, I'm going to talk about your iPad.
But so you think that that's inherent to the product itself and not the way that they make people think about the product and the cachet that goes, and there seems to be status that goes along with the product?
Well, the status is a whole other thing. I wrote a book called Tribes. And what Tribes is about is that, religion is a tribe, the mafia is a tribe. But now there's all these other tribes. There's a tribe of professional poker players. There's a tribe of magicians. And there's this huge tribe of Apple fanboys, right? And the Apple fanboys are waiting in line to buy one of these. Now, this is not a good phone, right? Can we all agree it's not a good phone? We waited in line so that when we whipped it out in a meeting, we could identify as an Apple fanboy. People go, ooh, you and me, we're like buddies. So there's a tribal element to what Apple's building. But a key part of what they're doing is the tribe cares that they don't make Me Too products.
Right. So they have to make...
Dell will not be able to steal us.
Because what Dell makes is boring.
Right, on purpose.
So it's a combination of they've managed to create a cult around their products, and the products are really innovative and new and interesting, which is why people don't get so excited about a MacBook anymore.
Exactly.
Nobody's like, oh, you have the new MacBook over there.
Do that thing that, Annie, do that thing that I love. Do like 1 minute of inside poker riffing about why you did something when some card showed up.
Okay. Well, so when a card shows up, you have to decide, first of all, what the range of hands that the other person could have is, and then how they're going to behave depending on what you do, given what that card tells them about what the list of possible hands that you have. And then when you make your decision, you're making your decision based on probability as opposed to outcome. So once you've made your decision, it's a good decision regardless of whether it works or not. There you go.
And then you talk about the flop and the this and the that. And there's all these words that I don't know what they mean, right?
Yes.
Why did they call it the flop instead of calling it what it is? Because language is the code base we use to decide if you're an insider or an outsider.
Right.
And the language of real poker players is established. You can walk anywhere in the world, and they don't have to know who you are, but you start talking the language, and they will accept you to play a game. Not me, right?
Yeah.
And this is something we can do on purpose, that when you want to establish yourself in a community, you get to invent words, you get to invent codes, you get to invent a look, right? So Apple does all this iconography on purpose. Seinfeld did all this iconography on purpose.
Right.
Sarah Palin uses code words on purpose because either you're an insider or you're an outsider. And so my writing is getting more sophisticated because instead of saying, here's a clever tactic to sell gum, what I'm saying is, if we think about the way, I'm giving you a segue here, get ready. If we think about the way the TSA is brainwashing us and the way the TSA is getting people to act a certain way, a lot of it has to do with the words they use, the symbols they use, the way they dress and the way they stand and the way the machines look. That's all on purpose. It's all because they're trying to create this aura around their story, so we're more likely to believe it.
Well, so you people should go to SethGodin.com because it's a fabulous blog, number one, and you have it set up as only you could, that it will email you the blog every time you post a new one, which is awesome. But because people will give you permission to do that. But you happen to coincidentally just write a blog on the TSA, and I had actually written a blog in January that was relatively similar, actually, to what you were saying just when they were talking about the underpants bomber back then. So there's one place, though, where I was disagreeing with you, I think, and I want to sort of run it by you. So in your blog, you basically said they're trying to market something that's meant to make us feel safe. And I feel like they're actually trying to market to us to make us feel afraid.
Yes, we're both right.
Okay, how are we both right? I believe you, by the way. I defer to you. But
Here's where it starts. It starts by saying a panicked populace was looking to the government to say everything is going to be okay. That since 9/11, people have demanded that from Rudy Giuliani on up, tell us everything is going to be okay. And the response was to say, everything will be okay if you let us torture people, listen to your phone calls, and actually make you feel scared all the time. And the act of making you feel scared is designed to remind you that the government is doing everything it can to make you safe.
you know what? I have to say, he actually is right. We're both right. Because that's what I was saying, is that a scared population allows the government to continue to exert powers over personal freedom. And that's something certainly that the prior administration was quite interested in doing. It remains to be seen about this one. So we're obviously we've segued now into TSA. Brian, can you give us some fast facts to frame the discussion for us?
I can do that, Amy.
Okay.
I'm off my iPad here.
Right, because we're members of a tribe.
So, yes.
Do you have the iPad, Seth, don't you?
Yeah, and I have 4 Kindles.
And okay, we have only 3 in our house, but I have the Kindle app on the iPad, so I guess we have 4. That counts, right? So we have 4 as well.
Fast facts. Here we go. The TSA was created in response to the September 11th attacks. The TSA is solely responsible for screening passengers and baggage at 450 U.S. airports. The TSA is now using full-body scanners that raise privacy and safety concerns. Each scanner costs $130,000 to $170,000. Radiation, and I did not know this until I pulled this fast fact, radiation emitted from the scanners is not that big of a deal. Some people are saying...
It's apparently less than if you sleep with someone for a whole year.
For a year.
Did you know that? Did you know that, Seth? If you sleep next to someone, apparently they emit radiation.
You know, there's lots of things that aren't clear about this, but I'm willing to set aside the radiation issue because it's not totally relevant.
Right.
2 more. The TSA introduced new pat-down procedures to help detect hidden and dangerous items such as explosives. And a National Opt-out Day was called the day before Thanksgiving. Yeah,
which they just turned off all the scanners for. Did you know that?
I didn't get scanned.
Yeah, they shut all the scanners off when everybody said we're not going to go through the scanners and we're going to hold up the lines. Which I thought was... So while you were gone, we were talking about the fact that what the TSA seems to do is just react, which I think is really super duper ineffective. If you go through, what's going to happen when someone blows up their butt? That's what... Right?
Or the dreaded brassiere bomber.
Yes, the dreaded brassiere bomber, and now women have to take off their brassieres. I mean, what I feel like is that there's no way for you to see every single way that a terrorist is going to attack you, and all they do is when a terrorist attacks, then they start looking for that thing from then on. So as more and more things happen, they just pile on more and more inconvenience without actually trying to ever stop an actual terrorist. As if the terrorists couldn't figure out a new way to kill you besides their shoes.
You look at
there's one shred of insight here that's not enough, but the shred of insight is, as soon as Groupon became popular, every entrepreneur had a variation on Groupon.
Right.
That as soon as someone does one bad act, lots of copycats occur. So it is not stupid to imagine that once someone does something in a certain way that others will. The problem with it is there's no risk-reward analysis. There's no prioritization. Most of all, we're being treated like children.
Right.
Because we're being told everything is okay. And everything is not okay. Because buses aren't okay, trains aren't okay,
Right.
daycare centers aren't okay, checked baggage isn't okay. So what we've done is we said, all right, we're going to put all our show, all our theater on over here to lull people into thinking that everything's okay. And I don't know what kind of email you got after your post, but I got about 10% of the email was, yeah, but it's a small price to pay for my safety. And the flaw in the reasoning is, okay, it's a price, but where's the relationship to your safety? There's no connection whatsoever between this and your safety. If you do any of the odds, last year in the United States, 30,000 people died from sepsis, an infection you get in the hospital.
Right.
30,000 people. Now, if we spent the money we were spending to try to avoid 200 people dying a flaming, horrible death, we would probably save 30,000 people's lives in the hospital. I mean, this is one example of misunderstanding the calculus of what
There's
we're trying
actually
to do.
a really, I couldn't find the chart because I was trying to find it, but there's a great chart which shows the difference between perceived threat and actual threat, right? And terrorism is, seriously, your chances of dying of terrorism are as low as your chances of dying from anything. You're more likely to get hit by a rock in the head and die than die from terrorism, but people perceive it as a very large threat. Whereas, here's an interesting thing, your chances of dying from heat are actually very, very high, and nobody perceives heat as any kind of threat. So same thing with infection. If we put all the money that we're putting toward the TSA to keeping people cool in the summer who don't have air conditioning, we would actually save thousands and thousands and thousands of lives. It's some crazy number of people who die from heat exposure every year in, like, Tucson.
Yeah, Chicago.
Or whatever it is, Chicago, these places. We could have saved all those people in the Chicago Marathon instead. But I guess to your point, here's an interesting thing. I mean, we want to keep people safe. So Amtrak trains go through very heavily and densely populated areas every single day. Certainly on the East Coast, they're going into Penn Station every day. They're going through New Haven and Hartford. They're going into D.C. But we don't screen a single person getting onto a train.
But that is the job of the TSA. They actually do oversee all of the various forms of transportation in the United States. And if you actually take a look at their budget, they have allocated almost 71% of their budget to air travel. So
why aren't they screening anybody who gets on a train? Because a terrorist could blow up an Amtrak train as it's going into Penn Station and just kill a whole buttload of people.
Because that's not where the people
That's not where it's not where the show is, right?
Right. And so for me, and I'm sorry, I forgot your name, the bikini woman.
This is Corrine.
I apologize.
But you can call her Bikini.
Corrine.
Did you see the picture? She's really hot.
Well, hot or not, as they say, it was a really brave act. And for me, the issue isn't what will happen in any particular scan and any particular airport. The issue is, when are we going to grow up? If you look at the way the British dealt with World War II, they dealt with it like grown-ups, and that's why they won. That no one was saying, vote for me and I will protect you forever. Vote for me and you will live forever. That there was this thing that some things in life aren't perfect. We'll get through it. And what I'm struggling with is, where are the people who are marketing the truth? Someone standing up and saying, this is the story I'm about to tell you, and it's more true than the other story. The story I'm about to tell you is, bad things happen sometimes. And let's figure out how to use the assets we have and the resources we have and the enthusiasm we have to make lots of good things happen. Because guess what? We can use all those assets, and we're not going to keep bad things from happening. And until we get to that point, we're not going to get rid of the budget deficit. We're not going to get rid of silly grandstanding politics. And we're certainly not going to get rid of bad guys who want to hurt us. So I just get very frustrated because the policy is wrong. Right. Anytime people believe in fairy tales instead of science, anytime they're not pushing us to be rational and prioritizing, I think that they're doing us a disservice.
I completely agree. We have an interesting comment, by the way, back to what we were talking about, from someone, Josh Woodworth. I don't know if you can pull it up on there.
I lost.
Yeah, okay, so speaking of what you said about security theater not equaling actual security, which someone echoed in the chat room, someone responded from Benjamin Franklin. Those who give up their liberty for more security neither deserve liberty nor security, which I think is a wonderful quote. I remember Keith Olbermann quoting that as well after 9/11. And speaking of the security theater, I think that that's really what they're playing on. That by making us afraid, we think we need to protect ourselves from outside enemies. And so we should give up our liberty in order to create more security. And all that does is make the enemy from within. And it doesn't actually create safety. It doesn't save lives. As you said, we could be spending all those resources to actually stop people from dying from infection or heat or, babies who are neglected or, whatever it might be. And those resources would be a lot better spent there. So I think that that's such an amazing, I'm so glad that he put that Josh Woodworth, right, that's his name, that he put that up. Here's something that I think is kind of interesting that I was thinking about, which is, don't the TSA security procedures in terms of this is a small price to pay to make us feel safe, which I think the Benjamin Franklin quote really plays up the fact that it's probably not such a small price to pay to give up that kind of personal liberty. But don't the procedures assume that the terrorists don't want to get caught? Are they effective if the terrorists don't care if they get caught?
Absolutely. They assume that people are hiding things and that they're walking through security with something that needs to be found. And I mean, I've said before that if someone really wanted to do something, they could. They could,
right? So this is sort of what I'm getting at. So if you're the only person trying to blow up a plane and you're acting alone, right, and you have no terrorist network, it's very important for you not to get caught in order to actually successfully blow the plane up, right? Because if you get caught, your plan's done. And so the TSA, it seems like the TSA screenings would work really well if you were one person without any network trying to blow up a plane who is very concerned about getting caught, because if you get caught, that's the end. But do terrorists care if they get caught? It's a huge sell, right? Do they care if they lose an individual? They could send in one day 1,000 people through the TSA to try to get one bomb through. And here's the interesting thing. If all 1,000 people got caught, they would still have done their job because we would be really frickin' afraid. Do you know what I mean? Like, they don't actually have to blow up a plane to do their job. They just have to make us know that there were 1,000 people coming in to blow up a plane, and we better watch our backs. And that, I think, is the real problem with what the TSA is doing. That, first of all, if they send 1,000 people in and 999 of them get caught, the terrorists don't care, because one guy got through and blew up the plane. But even so, if all of them get caught, it's still fine with them as well. And so I think we're working from the wrong assumption. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So, do you see what does that make any sense to you?
Well, yeah, it does. The problem is the situation, the discussion is academic because it's probably not going to be a plane that a bad guy wants to hurt anyway.
Right.
So and I don't think it's our job to wonder about the tactics. I think it's our job as taxpayers and citizens to wonder about the strategy. And my point is that there are fewer bad things happening in the world today than there has ever been since cavemen walked the earth. Fewer people being killed, dying in childbirth, more people living to old age, fewer people dying in wars. All these things are going in the right direction. But the media has figured out that the easiest way to make money is to constantly cycle gossip and fear. And so what we've got are people who are trying to make money by trying to make our lives worse, by trying to create hysteria. The interesting thing for me semantically is the expression war on terror means war on being afraid.
Right.
The problem is that war makes you afraid.
Right.
That, having a TV show called The Situation Room with breaking news is designed to spread terror. That's what it does. And the sooner that we just grow up and realize that every day you get out of bed, you're taking a little bit of a risk, and we stop using this as an opportunity to broadcast stuff so every person on the planet knows about everything that happens, the quicker we'll get rid of terror.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really true, because I mean, look, obviously you went through there obviously you were wearing a bikini to bring up the point of like, really, do you want to grope me? But how many people who went through that day didn't really get screened?
I didn't get screened.
You didn't get screened 3 times, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't screen you that day. Did they screen anybody else who was in line with you?
I think more of the screening actually happens when you go to secondary. I think a lot of what happens when you walk through the metal detector, put everything through the x-ray machine, I think that's kind of just part of the routine.
Right.
I saw somebody get through behind me who would, just saying, would be on my list if I had a list.
Oh, yeah. So here's by the way.
He didn't know, but he didn't have a photo ID.
And
he's like fumbling with all this paperwork, and they brought someone else over, and they.
See, this is the.
I was blown away.
I have a gripe, by the way. Do you guys have the same gripe? I have a gripe about the liquids thing. So some guy tried to bring some sort of liquid explosive on, and they were like, well, now you can't bring more than 3 ounces of liquid on in a single container. But first of all, me and my 10 terrorist friends could each bring 3 ounces of the liquid on and then combine it in a jar.
Did you see the story I sent you before the show? A woman.
Oh, right, with the baby food.
Bottles, they told her no, and she pulled out her iPad, and she pulled up the TSA laws and rules, and
they
said,
stole the baby's food. They were like, we have to test the baby's food for explosives. But the thing is that I could have 3 ounces, and then you could be in my group, and you could be in my group, and you could be in my group, and we could all bring enough on, and then combine it in an empty jar on the plane to blow all the crap up with my detonator cell phone or iPad. Because obviously we would use an Apple product to blow the plane up, clearly. Or I can bring as many 3-ounce bottles as will fit into my quart-size bag, which would clearly also be enough if I combined it all together to then blow it up with my detonator on my iPad. So that's the biggest theater of all, is this frickin' you can't bring your shampoo with you anymore. Just because it doesn't do anything. All right, so speaking of a nanny state, and speaking of, by the way, people just trying to make you afraid, let's move on to Sarah Palin. Did you hear this, Seth? Sarah Palin? She's now decided to protest Michelle Obama trying to make us less obese. This is her new cause.
I'm not going anywhere near this. I'm sorry. It's all yours, Ann. Have fun.
Well, this is what she did. You're going to enjoy this. Did you hear this?
No.
Okay. So this is what she did. She was really pissed off that they're trying to make us less obese and improve the quality of the food that we're giving our children in school. Because she thinks that kids should be able to eat candy and cookies and no one should tell them not to. So she went to a school and she brought cookies to the kids and handed out cookies to all the kids to protest Michelle Obama's policies. This woman has it really wrong. Can I just say that? So she was mad because what they're saying is, so they want to say that at school parties they want to offer healthy treats to the kids. At school parties. And this pisses her off because this should be the parents' choice and it's everybody's getting in the parents' business. This was what Palin said. I know, you're squinting your eyes because that's completely backwards, right?
I'm completely confused by this.
So this is what I did. I was like, but wait a minute. But what if I'm a parent who doesn't want my child to have a cookie? Particularly one baked by Sarah Palin, by the way. I just want to because she didn't look like she'd be a good baker, I just want to say. But if I want my child to have a cookie or candy, shouldn't that be my job to put it in their lunch? I shouldn't send my child who I want to eat healthy food to the school and have them hand them candy bars and cookies, right? Like, doesn't she have it backwards? Not surprisingly.
But don't they have, like, parents bring cupcakes on kids' birthdays and things like that?
Well, this is what they're saying, is that they want to start offering healthy treats under those circumstances because they want the parents to be able to choose what the children eat. So that's Michelle Obama's point. Sarah Palin has decided that it should be cookies for everybody if she's president. That should be her campaign.
Let them have cake.
If I win the presidency, I will bake cookies for every
She'll get the Girl
American.
Scout vote for sure.
She will get the She will get the Girl Scout vote for sure. I just think she has it backwards, that if you want parents to be able to choose what their children eat, then the school should be offering healthy choices. And this is how I put it. I think that unhealthy food should be an opt-in, not an opt-out. And if all you're offering at schools is unhealthy foods, then it's up to the parents to opt out. Not to the, do you see what I mean? They then have to opt out, and unhealthy food should be an opt-in. You should have to choose to do that for you or your children. I guess Sarah Palin doesn't understand that. Not surprisingly.
She's delusional.
She's completely delusional. So, just to wrap up, going back to Seth's point and obviously your point that, okay, well, this is what I'm going to have to do now. If you're going to treat me like a child, I'm now going to go through in my bikini. I think that you're right, that we should be acting more like adults, and that I think that people should be able to choose what they want, whether it's choosing whether their children want to eat a cookie and not have someone shove it in their face. But as far as the TSA is concerned, I think that instead of putting everybody to all this inconvenience, airlines should choose how much security they're going to provide. And then you can choose, do you want to go on the one where they give you a butt search? Or do you want to go on the one where you just walk through? And you can choose what level of security that you want depending on and then the customers would drive it. And it seems like that would keep us just as safe. Let the customers choose how much security they want. No?
Well, I don't know. Is obviously not going to go.
I hope that my airline at least gives me a little bit of security because I have only one airline that flies home for me.
Well, can't you do more than one stop?
I'd have to do a lot of stopping.
Where do you live?
Well, I'm from Santa Rosa.
Oh, okay. Well, that's difficult to get to. But do you see what I'm saying? Like, if we let people choose how much security they want, because here's a question. Are you afraid to go on a train?
No.
Okay, but there's no screening whatsoever. So the fact that you're afraid to go on a plane without being screened is marketing. Right, Seth? That's just marketing, because nobody's afraid to get on a train.
Right.
So let customers choose what level of security they want, and then the ones that want to go through the incredibly invasive procedure, they can. I just want to say, by the way, Sarah Palin should have brought these Kind bars. No, she's a marketer. She does marketing for Kind Plus.
I buy those all the time.
Do you like them?
I buy those all the time. Good job.
These are a healthier choice for people who would like something sweet and a candy bar, and they didn't even pay us to say that. What?
Oh. Well,
look, you're going to get
We'll send you some, Seth.
They're going to send you some, Seth. You're going to get some free Kind bars. Now, next week.
Crap.
I know, next week. Do you remember Shannon Rossmiller?
Sure.
Yeah, so speaking of the TSA and terrorists, next week we're going to have someone who Seth and I had the pleasure of getting to know in October, named Shannon Rossmiller.
Yes.
She is a citizen. She's not employed by the government. She is a citizen who decided that it would be good to actually do something about catching terrorists before they, get to the TSA screening procedure, because it might be more effective to stop them in advance. And she figured out a way to start interacting with terrorists on the internet, and has single-handedly brought down a bunch of terrorist cells. She's an amazing woman.
I think it's very important to not get Shannon mad at you. I know that I do not want her to be mad at me.
No, for sure, right? Yeah, no, I mean, she's an incredible woman. She was just a citizen who was very affected by 9/11. And that's it. And she decided to do something about it, and has done some amazing things in sort of counterterrorism and counterintelligence. So very excited to have her on. Seth, Lynchpin is your current book. Someone asked, are you working on a new book? Can you tell us anything about it? Is it top secret?
It's top secret, but you're going to get to see it first because I'd like your opinion. So
Yay!
I'll follow up and let you.
I'm so excited. In the meantime, Permission Marketing, Purple Cow, Lynchpin, go to SethGodin.com if you would like to keep up with everything Seth. He is worth it. He will inspire you with new ideas, whether you're a marketer or not. He will make you think in different ways about the world. We are so happy that you could come and join us. We're so happy you could be here too.
And my Facebook fan page if you want to see the videos and all the other stuff.
Yes, tell people what your Facebook fan page is.
You search my name, Corrine Theile, which hopefully they have spelled somewhere.
We do. We'll put it in the chat
room. And then
room.
Bikini Girl, but I think it comes up easier with Corrine Theile.
And I think everybody should be telling the TSA what they think and what for about all this stuff that is going on. Thank you so much for joining us, as usual. Next week, Shannon Rossmiller. Keep an eye out. Same time, same bat channel. Bye.
Thanks, guys.